By showing hands, are there any non-Muslims in the house? Non-Muslim brothers and sisters? I'm trying to put you on the spot. Alhamdulillah, how you doing? It's my special guest. I mean, sisters, if y'all would be polite to let the non-Muslim sisters come a little closer so I can, if you don't mind, please. Please. Yeah, let them in. Because they are guests, you know, we want to show them the hospitality that we show each other. Any non-Muslim brothers in the house, inshallah? Yeah, come up closer, Aki. Yeah, let the brother come sit up closer. These are our guests. We want to show them the same hospitality that we show each other. Jazakallah, kid. You hiding? Oh, I see you though. Alhamdulillah. How y'all doing? Yeah, okay. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, one of y'all want to be hospitable, let the brother. Right here, Aki. Say it. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, this is the mannerisms of the Muslim. Okay, alhamdulillah. By show of hands, how many of y'all heard my story of how I converted to Islam? It's kind of light. That's it? Okay, alhamdulillah. All right, well, basically, my journey to Islam, it started way before the music business. You know, a lot of y'all can identify with my existence from the success that I obtained in the music business. But like the brother said, I was born and raised in the streets of New York City and Harlem, a place that is very diverse in regards of culture, nationality, different ethnicities. And it's also a place that's plagued by drugs and violence. And growing up, you know, basically, I was inspired by individuals in my community who indulged in a lot of these negative activities as far as selling drugs, you know, robbing, stealing, even killing. And basically, this was my initial introduction to life as I knew it. You know, Harlem is not a very big place, but like I said, it's very diverse. You know, there's very much a lot of culture in New York City. You know, you can actually come to New York City and be able to, you know, share space with many, you know, different people from all over the world and learn a lot about their culture right there in New York City. You know, it'll probably prep you for how things are outside of New York City in these people or these individuals' countries. So basically, growing up, I was exposed to drugs and violence, maybe 3 generations strong. You know, my grandparents, my grandmother was a very strong woman. You know, she was a beautician. My grandfather, he served in the army for over 30 years and fought in World War II. So these were the most sound individuals in my family. You know, my mother and father, they were legends in the street. You know, they ran with a lot of notorious people. I grew up around a lot of people of the same likes, and this was what I was exposed to growing up. But basically in New York City, and I was saying a lot of, you know, communities or neighborhoods similar to this, as, you know, brothers may be familiar with, when we conduct ourselves in this environment, we try to have a very strong presence that kind of shields us from exposing any joy that we might have in our heart. In other words, like the poker face. A lot of people like to walk around with their face just looking blank, like you're just mad at the world. When in reality, you might even come from a good family. You might actually experience joy on more occasions than many. But just to be in an environment that's controlled by people who are aggressive, we try to conduct ourselves in a manner, in other words, we want to look tough, right? You be honest, right? When you're in these environments, brothers just want to have the rock face all the time, like, you know, you're just mad at everybody. Well, this is something basically that I practice. And not for the sake of looking tough, but as a form of surviving. Until later on in life, I developed the understanding that I had the ability to write. And I used to write a lot of things and use it as a form of therapy. It was a therapeutic method for me to deal with the day-to-day, you know, harsh reality that I faced every day in New York City. So it became my means of getting by. So I was able to conduct myself without the poker face. I was able to smile on certain occasions. because I had, addressed some of my matters by way of writing. And when that came got a little old, I started to use my imagination. I would incorporate my imagination into the writing and use that also as a means of getting over. And then when that got old, I started writing songs. So these were the stages that I went through in regards of, shielding myself from allowing the harsh reality and the surroundings that I was around 24 hours a day to get the best of me. I didn't want these things to get the best of me, so I utilized my ability to write. So basically, I was always exposed to the Muslim. I never had any understanding or recollection of Islam itself, but I was always exposed to the Muslim. Because in my environment, like I said, is very diverse culturally. So we would have like the Yemenis brothers, they own most of the local bodegas, or delis rather. They own most of the local delis, and the West African brothers, they own most of the cab services. Pakistani brothers, they own all the pharmacies. It's fun a lot. You know what I'm saying? And basically this was, my environment. This was my introduction to understanding the Muslim. And by understanding the Muslim, I looked at everyone as my brothers in the struggle. Because, living in this environment, you see, the way, these individuals utilize, their surroundings as a means of surviving. Like for instance, let's start with the Yemenis brothers. They own most of the local delis. So of course, the local delis are always planted in communities that are very, very rough. So the Yemenis brothers, they have to find a way to fit in. So they would have their hat to the back, you know what I'm saying? They would wear the same clothes we wear. They would try to talk like this, come in the store. What up, Shine? Like, what up, Shine? That's the Yemenis, bro. What is he talking about? What up, Shine? Some of them would be like 5'3", standing on the crate. Look real tall. You come in the store, they look mad tall, until you see them close the store and they come out, and you be looking at like, like, shorty, that was you all day? Talking all tough? And then there's another method of defense. They would have pictures of like 4-year-olds, holding AKs. So, you walk in the store, you see that, you're like, shorty got an AK, you only 4 years old. And we think in our environment, brothers 10, 12, they might get their hands on a little 22. So you see, I don't want a problem with the Yemenis brothers, man. They got 4-year-olds holding AKs. I can imagine what the adults is carrying. Probably got rocket launchers, right? So, all these things, work in your mind as like, these are like, subliminal scare tactics in a sense to, create a certain kind of defense. Because they run in the business in an environment that's really rough. So we always looked at them like our brothers in the struggle. We get along with the Yemenis brothers, alhamdulillah. Then, you got the West African brothers, mostly from Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Gambia, stuff of that nature, Nigeria. They own most of the, the taxi services. So basically, the impression that they made on us is like they just was like very, like aggressive, very aggressive. Because, you would get in a taxi and not being mindful that this guy got strangers sitting behind him every day. So this is kind of, a nervous job to have. You're sitting in the taxi, you got a stranger getting in the car, sitting behind you every day. So when you get in the car, you need to be sure of where you're going and be, be clear. Because you'll get in the car, you tell a brother, yo, take me to 145th Street. He'll get in, you get in the car. And there's something to pop in your head. You're like, you know what, could you just stop at 135th? He said, no, you said 145th. Like, calm down. Why you getting on nervous? No, listen, you take 145th, you're not going nowhere else. You go to 45th and you get out. And you be sitting there, saying to yourself, like, what is wrong with this brother, man? You're supposed to be a Muslim. Like, relax, man. You know what? I don't need your money. Just get out. So now, you walking, you're trying to flag another cab. A lot of times, even the African brothers, they won't stop for brothers that, dress kind of like, dark hoodies, stuff like that. You're not getting any taxi. Because there have been some very, horrific stories of, cab drivers getting killed, getting robbed, shot in the back of the head, stuff like that. So this is their method of defense. It's like, get in a car, be sure, know where you're going, don't come with no last minute, switch up plan, because they're going to get nervous. And that nervous reaction turns into defense. So, And of course, you know, you go to pharmacies, it's Pakistani brothers, you know. It all boils down to what kind of insurance you got. You know, they got medicine for everybody. You know, welfare recipients, Blue Cross holders, you know. And, you know, they have their methods of defense as well. So, alhamdulillah, this is what I was exposed to in my early stages. And to make matters worse, you got the Nation of Islam. You know, these brothers, they got on suits and bow ties, and they just like the most politest people in the world that is so harsh. And these are brothers that sliding up on you, and like, you know, like James Brown, they just slide up on you. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How you doing, Aki? Can I interest you in a bean pie? Have you ever read The Final Call? And you looking at this dude like, yo, what you want, man? Like, nobody that nice, man. What's your angle? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, you know, these are brothers, most of them used to come straight out of jail. They have mean waves, you know what I'm saying, apart like Farrakhan, his tight suit on, and they smell like they just poured a whole bottle of Atta on, and it's like, you know, these guys, they try to use every method of hospitality, of friendliness, and it kind of makes you nervous, because you're in a place where people don't smile much. We don't even shake hands. We talk from a distance. Yo, what up? You know, everything from a distance. So when someone slides up on you and that nice, you want to offer you a pie. You don't know who cooked that. I don't know where that come from. You want to give me a magazine. And, you know, these things, you know, these were the impressions that I had of the Muslim. But once again, like I said, I never had any negative views of Islam. Just an impression of the Muslim. So, you know, alhamdulillah. And basically, I remember a day when I was outside, you know, in my neighborhood, doing, you know, things that were haram. You know, a buddy of mine, me and was out there doing our thing, you know, trying to eat. And I remember this brother came through selling a car. Allahu Alam where he got the car from, but it was a nice car, you know, he was selling it. And I was like, okay, you know, I want to buy this car. So I remember the dude I was with, he was like, man, you don't need that car, man. You want to get a car, man, go to the dealership, buy a car. Don't buy no car for somebody in the street. And I'm saying to myself, I got a license anyway, so it don't matter. Either way it goes, you know what I'm saying, it's going to be a risk. So I'd rather just buy the car from the dude. So he was like, you know, leave the car alone. I said, nah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to test drive. I'm going to go around the block a few times, see how I feel. So, subhanAllah, I got in the car, I didn't even make it to the corner. The police pulled me over, locked me up. So, the same brother that told me not to get in the car, of course, you already know, he came to bail me out, get my ears all prepared. I know he about to chew me out, talking about, y'all told you don't get in the car. You know how your friends do, man. They are merciless when it comes to like, I told you so, right? Your friends are merciless. SubhanAllah, they just go hard on you, like, yo, I told you. But instead of that, he started reciting certain things that were so familiar to me. Because mind you, all the things I used to write was in a book. I used to keep this book with me everywhere. I used to keep this book everywhere I used to go. But when he started reciting things to me that sounded so familiar, I was like, man, where is he getting this stuff from? You know, I'm all prepared for this guy to bash me and tell me, I told you so, and yo, you're going to owe me that bail money I just spent. You know, I'm thinking of all these things. But wallahi, he kept like reciting these things to me. And I realized at that moment that he had my book. So I was like, man, wow, this is my personal stuff. You know, this is my method of, you know, masking my macho-ness. Like, you got my stuff. You know, you got my guts, really. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, when we conduct ourselves, we only show our shell. This man was walking around with my guts. And I'm like, man. So instead of discouraging me, he encouraged me. He was like, yo, this stuff is hot, man. I didn't even know you wrote like that. I didn't even know you thought like that. I didn't even know you had that type of stuff on your mind. And I'm looking at him like, I could dig it, can I get my book? Like, you know, I just wanted my book back, you know, because I just felt like, man, this is just too personal for you. You know, I understand, I appreciate the comment and all that, but I need my book, man. So he gave me the book back. And I thought about it, you know, I kind of dwelled on it, and I was like, you know what? Maybe he was right. Maybe I should, you know, pursue this writing thing. And I did. SubhanAllah, I did. And I landed it big in the music business. You know what I'm saying? I sold over 7 million records. You know, I wrote over 52 top 10 hits. And I traveled the world, you know, and the success that came from the music business was just, I mean, at the time, it was like a dream. And with a lot of, in defense of a lot of entertainers that come from these inner city or impoverished communities, in their defense, I would like to establish one thing, is that when we come into these business, when we come into the music business, we come with pure intentions. You know what I'm saying? We come with intentions to try to make things easy in our immediate circle. Because what's very common in our environment is single parents, you know what I'm saying, parents that's addicted to drugs, some kids growing up, you know, pretty much on their own. This is common. This is not a rarity for us. You know what I'm saying? So when you're coming out of this environment and you discover that you have some kind of significant talent, whether it's just dribbling the basketball, you run fast, from running from cops, everybody tell you, oh, you run fast, maybe you should run track. Like, this is how we discover our talent. It's funny, like it always has to be some type of immense situation for someone to discover you have a talent. It's not something you practice in school, it's like something that's always discovered. So, you know, might be a guy, you know, just one day, you know, drunk or something, just start dancing, like, yo, you can dance. Like, you know, this is how I always go down. So long story short, basically, we come into the business with pure intentions. And once you obtain a certain level of success, you know what I'm saying, there's a lifestyle that comes with it. And this is a lifestyle that you don't really prep yourself for, you understand? Because you have such a short range perception of what it is you're trying to obtain. You might come into it like, I just want to buy my grandmother a house. That's it. You're not thinking about the Ferrari, the chains, all the things that came later. Your main objective is, if I sell it, a couple of records, whatever, it don't matter. I'm just going to buy my grandmother a house. And this is common. You know, most people come from the environment and this is what they want to do. I just want to do something that's going to lighten the load on the people that were batting for me when I didn't have nothing. But when you get past that and you start to accumulate more success, the lifestyle that comes with it gradually removes you from your initial plan. Gradually just removes you, because after you done got the house for your, you know, your grandmas, you done helped your sisters with their school tuition, you done did certain things, it's like, now what do? Go crazy. Basically, you go crazy. You know, you start investing money, spending money, just tossing money, just wasting money basically. And you start doing all these things and experimenting with life, you know, at your own expense. So for the Muslim brothers and sisters, y'all all aware of the 3 most answered dua, right? Alhamdulillah, by show of hands, I mean, could we interact? The 3 duas that Allah answers. Subhanallah. We Muslims, right? Okay, Allah answers the dua of the traveler. Oh, it's kicking in now? He answers the dua of the mother, you know, the mother to her child. He answers the dua of the oppressed. And the reason why I say the dua of the oppressed, because it doesn't matter if you're Muslim or non-Muslim. This is a dua that gets answered. This is for my non-Muslim brothers and sisters who y'all my guests. You know, when you suffer a certain sense of oppression, how your heart sincerely cries out to God is answered. So in my case, I was suffering from a certain sense of depression and oppression that came from my success. And it probably was very difficult for any of y'all to detect this if any of y'all was indulged in, you know, watching music videos and, you know, paying attention to, you know, hip hop at the time. These 3-minute and 40-second frames of these videos, it always looked like, you know, Loon and Puff were just having the time of their life. And, you know, we always was having fun, right? You just get off a helicopter, you get off a plane, they ride motorcycles, look at him and G1, they crossing lane, they look, oh my goodness, these dudes are having fun. He's always poolside, all the honeys around, you know, I ought to be like. But this is what you see. And you truly believe that this guy could not ever be unhappy. He can't possibly be unhappy. He's walking around with a strobe light on his chest. Look at this guy. Look at the diamonds, look at this, look at that. All these are supposed to be clear indications of success. All these are supposed to be indications that, you know, everything that you're doing constitutes a certain type of joy that comes along with it. You know, but the reality of it is, this is only one dimension of a person who has multiple impressions of himself. You know what I'm saying? So y'all looking at my stuff, you're like, I need a girl, part 1, part 2, part 10. This guy here, he's just, man, always needs a girl. Ain't Puff been in the business 12 years? He need a girl too? Like, you know, it turned into this, like, this whole one-dimensional thing where y'all probably looked at me like this hopeless romantic guy, or maybe the wedding singer. I don't know what y'all thought I was, you know what I'm saying? But alhamdulillah, it was only just one impression shown, and that's it. And the more you force that impression on people, they think they know you. I used to have people run up on me like, yo, how Usher doing? I ain't seen Usher since the video. I don't hang with Usher. We just did a video together. Oh, okay, what about Genuine? Y'all chilling? I ain't seen Genuine since the video. You know, me and Puff cool, you know what I'm saying? But that's the whole reality. Y'all think that everybody just like the get along gang. Anybody you do a song with, anybody you do a video with is like, this is your boy. Y'all grew up since 4th grade or something. Like, nah, it's not like that. You know what I'm saying? And this is the only impression that's given to you. So sadly, this is the way you receive it. But the reality of it is, with the success that came from that, I was losing touch with who I was previously. Because I came from a harsh reality. I didn't choose to make music to glorify the reality that I lived in. I chose to use an avenue that would express the most positive side, and that was my respect for women. You know, my grandmother stood on her feet 40-something years, maybe 50 years, doing hair. She just retired in December at age 80. Age 80, this woman was still standing on her feet doing hair, feeding the next generation of great-grands. You understand? So basically, this was the greatest woman I've ever seen in my life. I was raised by this woman. So it enabled me to have respect for a woman based on the sacrifices that she made, not only for me as a grandson, but for her children, and you know, for my children, which is her great-grands. You understand? So this was something I had to incorporate in this talent that I found. And in order to give a great impression of myself outside of everything I might have indulged in the streets, this was the best thing for me, is to show my respect for the women. So I never made songs that were derogatory towards women. I couldn't help the way the women looked in the videos. Yeah, forgive me, I'm sorry. I didn't pick them. You know what I'm saying? But the songs themselves, I tried to project the most respect that I could possibly have for the woman. So basically, during this state of the oppression, I started to feel like I needed to gradually separate myself from the business. And my first step was moving away from Puff, because you know Puff is an icon. You know, his presence alone is very overshadowing. You know, you could just be the guy in the mailroom and work for Puff, and there's certain benefits that come for that. Literally, all you do is lick stamps. But you lick stamps for Puff. It's like, yo, you should lick stamps. Let me see your tongue. You know, it's like when you see your tongue, like you don't lick no stamps for Puff. Your tongue should be green. Because I know Puff get a lot of fan mail. Let me see your tongue. You know what I mean? So there's benefits coming with just being a water boy. So I'm looking at myself like, in order for me to start finding out or re-finding myself or reconnecting with who I was previously, let me remove myself from this powerful entity, because this guy here is an icon. And his presence alone is just overshadowing, overtowering over, you know, who you might be. So when I did that, on amicable terms, me and Puff, we separated, and I started my own thing. So at this point, everything that I gathered, you know, I started to travel the world. And this is when my impression of the Muslims started to, you know, escalate in a sense. I visited West Africa now. I actually got to see West Africa. Went to Senegal, visit Gorée Island, the slave island where 60 million slaves passed through. And there was a lot of history behind there, like it was a small percentage of those slaves that were Muslims. Then you know, go to certain places, you look at a guy and you're like, what is he doing? Ooh, he just put his face on the floor. What is that? You know, and gradually you start to log these things in. You start to see certain characteristics of the Muslim. And they just started to I started to log them in. I wasn't really like honing in on them, but just noticing certain things and just storming it. So basically I went to Senegal, Morocco, Cote d'Ivoire, Kazakhstan, China, everywhere I was going, just bumping into the Muslim, constantly bumping into the Muslims. Like, man, Muslims are everywhere, yo. For real, like, I didn't know that.